But I wonder what this was right here. Okay, folks, I can see where one of the cannonballs hit the house. Distracted mothers became separated from their children. Cavalrymen dashed across their path while bullets and bombs whistled above them. Can you tell why this cabin is so unique? There's something about it. Well, folks, this was a slave quarters. Very few original slave buildings still exist in Northeast Tennessee. Hey guys, welcome to Blountville, Tennessee. Blountville, Tennessee has so much history, and we're standing right in the middle of it here on Main Street. Blountville, Tennessee, if you're wondering where it's at, up in the northeast section of the state. And you've probably heard of Johnson City, Kingsport, and Bristol. Well, Blountville sits almost right in the middle of those three cities. So I wanted to share some of the amazing history, the Battle of Blountville, and show you some of the historic things right here. I invite you to join me. So we have the historic courthouse bell, which was forged in Maryland. It says this bell was placed atop the old section of the Sullivan County Courthouse circa 1870 and hung there nigh 100 years. This historic bell was mounted here on the courthouse lawn by the Sullivan County Board of Commissioners. There it is. You talk about everything that thing has seen. Oh, the history there is amazing. Dedicated in the memory of the Confederate soldiers of Sullivan County, Tennessee, War of 1861 to 65, Battle of Blountville. The Battle of Blountville, you can see here on September 22nd, 1863, Confederate forces commanded by Colonel James E. Carter fought a Union brigade led by Colonel John W. Foster. After the delaying, the Union advanced for more than 4 hours. Carter withdrew toward Zollicoffer, now known as Bluff City. During the battle, artillery shells set fire to the courthouse, and much of the town burned. Skirmishing near Blountville continued until news of the bloody battle at Chickamauga reached General Ambrose Burnside, and Union General Henry Wagner Halleck ordered a retreat toward Knoxville. The area that is now Blountville is thought to have been the location of a long hunter. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. Look at that old tree. My goodness. But it was thought to be the location of a long hunter fort prior to its permanent settlement. And the site, the town was part of a tract of about 600 acres of land, bought by James Brigham in 1782. In 1792, Brigham gave 30 acres to Sullivan County for use as a county seat and established a hotel nearby. So Blountville was laid out as a town and established as a county seat in 1795. And the county's first courthouse and jail was a log structure. In 1825, it was replaced with a brick building. By the 1830, the settlement had 209 residents, 2 churches, 6 stores, 2 taverns, 10 mechanics, 1 doctor, and 1 lawyer. On the afternoon of September 22nd, 1863, during the Civil War, the town was the scene of a 4-hour-long Battle of Blountville during a major expedition into East Tennessee and other areas around. The town was shelled and the fighting, and the courthouse was burned in the battle, which forced the Confederates to withdraw. The courthouse was rebuilt within the old walls in 1866. This is the Anderson Townhouse. The log section of Anderson Townhouse was built in 1792 to 95. It housed the first town commissioners of Blountville. John Anderson, who lived and worked at the townhouse when in Blountville on commissioner duties, was the owner of the well-known blockhouse on the famed Wilderness Road. In addition to the town commissioners, the house has been home to a number of Presbyterian and Methodist ministers, as well as Joseph Anderson, one of the founders of modern Bristol. The kitchen burned about 1811. As part of America's bicentennial celebration, the house was purchased in 1974 by the Sullivan County Historical Commissions. So if this house could talk, that would be quite amazing, wouldn't it, folks? On the National Registry. I like how they've got it set here just right on Main Street. You can see how it's this was not actually part of the original back here. But I wonder what this was right here. If any of you know watching the video, I would love to know what that is right there. I just love history, and I think about homes like this and the hands it took to build it years and years ago. As a matter of fact, 1792. In a few minutes we'll come back down and I'll show you the Deary Inn, and then what's back behind the Deary Inn is quite amazing. But we're going to talk about this Cannonball house. It says that it narrowly missed destruction. So right now, folks, you are standing in front of the Miller Haynes house, known as the Cannonball House, because of structural damage it sustained from Union cannon fire during the Battle of Blountville. During the artillery exchanges, Confederate forces were largely behind the east of the house, while Colonel John W. Foster's Union forces were positioned west of here at Blountville Cemetery. Several cannonballs struck the house's western side. It was fortunate that artillery fire did not destroy the house completely. Here you can see the damage here. These photographs show shell damage to exterior clapboard in the rear of the house, now protected by plexiglass, and to an interior door. Look at that. Circa 1848. I don't know how old that barn is, but it doesn't appear to be near as old as the house. I see at least 3 chimneys in the home. Okay, folks, I can see where one of the cannonballs hit the house. Right there. Well, more than one. You see to the right of the door, we got plexiglass over it, and then the actual door is still standing there. Can you believe cannonballs actually hit this home? Look at that. Chimney. What a structure to find right here in the Tri-Cities. Now we will head back down to the Deary Inn. I'll share some of the history with it. This is called the Bar House, 1895. And check it out. See if there's any history. I've been trying to find a local. Unfortunately, I believe everybody is working today. The old Deary Inn, 1800s. Oh, what stories this place could tell. And you gotta wonder how many footsteps has gone down through there. So you can kind of see from the map here, we're standing right here. The courthouse is down this way, and the old courthouse that burned was down this way, which is right down there. You see the flags. But in September 1863, Confederate General Samuel Jones, commanding Union General Ambrose E. Burnside's forces, contested control of the Virginia and Tennessee Railroad a few miles east of here. But then, on September 22nd, Union Colonel John W. Foster's brigade engaged the forces of Confederate Colonel James E. Carter at Blountville. And when the firing began, the women and children gathered the sick and elderly and sought refuge in the cellars of the most solid buildings, the St. John residence and the old Deary Inn. In the thick of the fight, and more dangerously exposed than the soldiers of either side, were the fleeing women. Historian Oliver Taylor wrote in 1909, "In the confusion of such a hasty departure, distracted mothers became separated from their children. Cavalrymen dashed across their path, while bullets and bombs whistled above them." William Deary constructed this trading post and tavern, later known as the Old Deary Inn, early in the 1800s. As he prospered, he added to the building, including a 3-story hewn stone structure in the rear. After his death, about 1845, his widow lived here until the Cate family purchased it after the Civil War. There are only certain times that they open up the Deary Inn. Today's not one of those days. This is a 1927 shot of it right there. And you can see the dining room in the stone section. It says where the town residents took refuge during the Battle of Blountville would have been right there. One can only imagine the number of times those have been painted. Look at that. Those hinges. Check this out. I hope to come back and take you guys in sometime. National Register of Historic Places by the United States Department of the Interior. There's a little more information we've already shared. Called the Old Deary Inn, built shortly after 1785. You can see there. It was a stopping place for many distinguished travelers of early days. Andrew Jackson, James K. Polk, DeMarcus D. Lafayette, Prince Louis Philip, Andrew Johnson, and others enjoyed its hospitality. It operated as an inn until shortly before 1930. And these original gates, designed by Adolph Kluss, hung at the Smithsonian Institute from 1879 to 1910. They were brought to Blountville by Virginia Caldwell in the 1940s. Wow, that is thick and heavy. Here you go, something hung in the Smithsonian Institute right here. We're going in. We'll go down in a little bit. So we'll go down, I'll show you all of this over here. So much history. I'm thinking, you know, if we could go back to these times and live, how many of you would choose to do that if you could? I talk to a lot of people who say, I definitely would. Then there are others that say, no, I really like the modern conveniences. What would you say? So as we said before, a long hunter, or it was pronounced a lot of different ways, but it was an 18th century explorer and hunter who made expeditions into the American frontier for as much as 6 months at a time. Historian Emory Hamilton says that the long hunter was peculiar to Southwest Virginia only, and nowhere else on any frontier did such hunts ever originate. So the Deer Inn was also known as the Old Tavern. You can get a better shot of it there. It's also known as the Mansion House and Store, sitting right here on Main Street. And it's really considered, I guess, the centerpiece of Blountville, Tennessee. It's a 2-story federal style building with 19 rooms inside. The original building was a log structure built in the 1780s or 1790s, as we shared with you. With hotel rooms on the second story, the building's 19 rooms include a large entrance hall, a gathering room, a dining room, a library, 2 kitchens, 3 bathrooms, 2 attics, a cellar, 4 bedrooms for the family, and 3 sleeping rooms for travelers. And you will find it on the Civil War trails. I think that's called Haunt Blue. Haunt Blue. Painted that color for a reason. It's much cooler. So I said we walk down and I'll show you these buildings. Oh well, I'm not sure where these steps go. Up to the second floor, yeah. They've even got the Haunt Blue all the way up here. I think what's fascinating is a lot of people living in the Tri-Cities maybe don't understand the history that's right here in the Blountville area. Maybe they've never been told, maybe they never studied it in school. Then through here is a whole row of structures that I wanted to show you. It's locked up. This is an 1840 smokehouse. The Judge and Mrs. Joseph A. Caldwell relocated the 1840 Sullivan County smokehouse to this site shortly after 1940 when they bought and restored the Deer Inn for their residents. 1840. Wow. Check that out, guys. Look how that wood was cut and laid in there. Can you imagine how much work that would take? back in those days. And on down is the brick kitchen. William Deary built this kitchen about 1810 to serve his inn. Virginia Caldwell described it as tumbledown in 1940, before the west and north walls were reconstructed. It served as her weave house, and it's now furnished as an early 1800s kitchen. Not sure you can see in there. Maybe a little bit. Look at this. It's pegged. There's a door on the side over here. The next structure, little building that we come to here, is King Ironworks Cabin. It's kind of covered up with these shrubs out here. But check that out. It says this 1790 log cabin was the office of the James King Ironworks, which was located at the junction of Beaver and Steel Creeks near Bristol, Tennessee. It said it now houses Mrs. Caldwell's collection of 19th century spinning and weaving equipment. It doesn't just look like something you'd see sitting in the Smoky Mountains or way back up in the hills. Western North Carolina. Love that. I always try to look for the style of nails that were used. This is a granny cabin. This cabin's unique, and if you just stare here and look at it, do you know why without reading over there? It was because it was constructed with only 3 logs per wall. It was moved here from Hawkins County, and that's when Virginia Caldwell named it a granny cabin. It is furnished to show the roughest dwelling of the early settlers. Get a good shot of the fireplace there. There was a window that's been covered up. You can see it. Then we'll walk right up here through this pretty little area and show you these buildings here. This particular building here was the Fane Law Office. It says this little building originally stood across the street and served as the office of attorney John Fane in the late 1800s. Well, folks, this was a slave quarters. It says William Deary built this brick building in the early 1800s to house his slaves. Very few original slave buildings still exist in northeast Tennessee, but you're looking at one of them. Wonder why this was like this. Those bricks turned inways. I guess, I don't know. structures and how these windows were built. We've got a lot of things covered up in there. Guess that's some old beds and things. This would really be worth coming back. Maybe when they open it up sometime. Yeah, check that out. Maybe that's just the style with the end bricks laid in there. Comment below if you know. Well, folks, there you go. The history of Blountville, Tennessee. The Battle of Blountville. I hope you enjoyed this big story from this little small town, or a small town with a big story. If you like videos like this, you might consider subscribing. Until the next journey, adventure. See you guys.